Welcome back to Obituary. I'm Spencer Henry.
And I'm Madison Reyes.
And welcome to the Meeting of the Minds, where two of history's most intelligent,
influential
beauties come together every week to give you the lowdown on historical factoids regarding the funerary industry,
science of all kinds,
obituaries,
and
more.
Madison, more.
I'm giving you more. Madison, more.
When I would run for like student body, never won. Never did.
Sorry. You could run for student body here.
Okay. I wish I still had a student body, honey.
She got that principal padonk.
Got that principal walk, honey.
That secretary. It's okay. I'm just a creepy janitor, so
yeah.
I'm right there with you.
But when I would run, I'd always try. I'd always give it the college try. Growing up, had two big standard poodles, right?
Uh-huh.
So there's a picture of me with them on the poster. I got to find the poster. Hung it all around school. My maiden name is Moore. And so it was, why settle for less when you can have more? Madison Moore for student body president or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I made it onto the team.
Well, I told you when we started the podcast, I was like, your stage name. You should just use your maiden name for your stage name because it sounds so good together.
I know.
Maddie Moore.
Marie Moore.
Maddie Marie Moore. That was your old Instagram.
Yeah?
Maddie Marie Moore.
Yeah, now it's Madison Mr. Eyes.
What have they done with her? What have they done with her? You want to talk about corruption in Hollywood, honey?
Oh my God. Can we talk about it?
Yeah, sure. What's up with that?
Can we talk about something that is so disgusting?
What?
And you probably saw it because you watched SNL. And Cisco and I watched SNL. Did you see the Progresso soup candy?
Yes.
I looked it up. I'm like, that can't be real. It's real.
It's real?
And it's sold out. They're little candies that taste like chicken noodle soup. And I
See,
think
that's fucked up.
Imagine?
No, I don't even want to imagine. I mean, people do so much with like bone broth and stuff now that it doesn't surprise me that this is where we came as a society.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. When you put it like that, but it's cold.
I just don't like that at all.
I don't know.
I don't like that at all. But you know what I do like?
What?
Nosferatu.
You saw it?
I did. I went and saw it. And
what did I tell you? It was beautiful.
So stunning. Absolutely loved it. You told me I'd have more of an appreciation for it. Well, I think you told all of us that last week. Like you'd have more of an appreciation with all of our knowledge of that era. And I absolutely did. Yeah, I thought it was a beautiful movie. I did get to see the infamous Nosferatu dick, but I told you it wasn't
nothing to write home about.
No, I mean, given his size and everything, I think I expected something a little more
like flop on the table,
engorged, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of there. But I thought it was fantastic. I really loved it. I'm very much into vampires right now. We know this. And that's actually what prompted my coffin spinner today, which I'm going to go ahead and get into. No, just kidding. Imagine we just skip everything. Just really throw everyone for a loop. One day we should just go. We should look up what like International Backwards Day is and just throw everyone for a real loop.
Oh, perfect. Start with dumb criminals and...
Yeah, work our way back. No, but I really love the movie. I do have to say, and I think because you and I talk about this, we don't go to the movies a ton. I didn't realize, like I was paying attention when I was booking our tickets, but I'm like, it is so much money to go to the movies. And I don't notice the price of anything ever. It's one of my like toxic flaws is that I just don't look.
And then you get up to the register and you're like,
paying for the snacks and stuff
yeah
was more than the movie.
For two people,
$100 easy.
Easy
$100 at the movie when you get some snacks and you get some whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing though that I love more than just a big bucket of popcorn, gigantic Diet Coke,
Nothing better
comfortable seat sitting there in the dark.
in this whole world. There's nothing better.
Like truly, I need to go to the movies more.
Are you getting emotional?
And I just feel like I just get that me time. Last week talking about like, you really got to take time for yourself.
Oh, you got to rest.
You got to rest.
You do.
All about rest. Won't be resting this weekend because guess what? Dad's coming back tomorrow. Come back to my house tomorrow.
Daddy's home.
Daddy's home, baby. He is coming here because we're going back to Supercross this weekend, and I'm so excited.
Yes.
Another bucket of nachos. That's a close second for me. Love sitting in a movie theater. Love sitting in an arena watching people on dirt bikes while I eat nachos out of a helmet.
Yeah.
That's probably another simple pleasure I really enjoy.
That's a good one. That is a good one. Hi, Chuny.
Hi, Hot Dog. Thank you for gracing us.
Hi, thank you so much.
With your presence. You're late.
Yeah, where were you?
You're late for recording, babe.
She was hooking up something over there.
She was
lighting something.
She was changing the cards in the camera and making sure the audio levels were correct. This is our sound engineer, Hot Dog.
And she was at craft services and sad news.
Oh.
David Lynch died.
Oh my God, I know.
Really sad.
I feel like Eraserhead is one of those movies where you remember where you were when you were shown that the first time.
Yeah, wild.
I was at this older gentleman's house.
Well, maybe it was because of that.
No. Not like that. It was like after an AA meeting. I was with my friend girl, and she was... She was like my age. We were probably like 18. There was this older guy who came to all of these. These were like young people AA meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like certain ones that they're like kind of dedicated more towards like a younger crowd.
Yeah.
But he was like definitely older, and like 50s probably at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember we went to his house and he showed us Eraserhead, and like I'm thankful that he did. I still quite like I'm like.
Why?
Yeah. But like, I don't know. Yeah, that was a crazy movie. And also, he was flying my friend down to LA, and she was like, well,
Who is this man?
I don't know. And
Jeffrey
yeah, his name. He took us to his island.
No.
But she was like, can Spencer come too? And he's like, I guess. Because she was like one of my best friends at the time. And so we went down. I remember, I mean, I'm 18. And we were like staying in Hollywood. Yeah, I'm 18 right now. So I was 7. That was like peak reality TV time. And so I remember being like very amused by Los Angeles at the time.
Yeah.
I feel like I had gone to like a few times, been to LA, but like my family, if we came to Southern California, we were always in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
And so I didn't spend a lot of time in LA growing up.
LA is a lot different 10 years ago than it is now also.
Well, that was...
Or how old? Yeah.
That was probably closer to like 15 years ago.
Yeah. Melrose was still like it.
Poppin'.
Yeah.
A lot of it was just like a vibe still at that time. I mean, that was like 2010.
Yeah.
Ish. 2009, 2010.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we are so sad.
Oh, yeah, David Lynch.
About David Lynch.
I said, you know what I did? That was creative genius. I looked at the death of someone and I said, how can I make this about me?
Well, I was going to make it about me also. So I was waiting for you to stop.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Because I feel like I have a special connection with him. It has nothing, well, it has some things to do with him, but like, how can we make this about us? Okay, I went to film school.
So I just remembered my experience watching Eraserhead. Madison has a special connection to him.
Better than you. Better than your story. I went to film school at Cal State Fullerton. I was in their film department. So, I didn't retain any of it except for like old Hollywood stuff. That was like it. But ask me about like ratios. I'm like, I don't know how I passed. Anyway, So I have a degree in film, and
And so she just feels really close to David Lynch.
no, because Bob Engel was a teacher there, and he was like a writing partner of David Lynch, or he like helped with Twin Peaks. And I got chosen to interview him for this thing. I hadn't seen Twin Peaks, so I remember I was in Hawaii for Halloween in college. I had to sit in the hotel room for 2 days straight and watch every Twin Peaks episode ever.
Just so you knew.
Just so I knew.
See, even if I did that, I probably wouldn't remember any of it.
Well, the minute you sit down and try to interview someone who's like really special and important,
Yeah.
and
it
there's
just goes
cameras
out.
on you, I'm like, what's your name?
Uh-huh.
Bill?
Who are you?
Yeah.
That is cool though that you got to do that.
I know. I wish I could find the footage.
Me too. And if you ever do find it,
My hair was red in it.
that's right.
Yeah.
Because I've seen pictures of you from that. I know a lot of these stories, so I'm not an asshole ignoring her. I know
Yeah.
these stories.
Yeah.
This is not the first time hearing it. But I can pretend.
It's not.
Oh wow.
It's not the second or third, and it won't be the last.
I'm hearing this for the first time.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Big Donnie's back. That was actually her hair inspiration, and then it just got a little too red.
Donnie. It's my body inspiration. God.
Oh, shit. Okay. Pull it together.
Pull it together.
Pull it together. Did we talk? Oh, no. We talked about that on Patreon. I was going to talk about the magic, but we talked about that on Patreon.
Yeah.
So go to Patreon if you want to hear about that. I'll talk about that again on Patreon, though, today.
Oh, wonderful. Everybody's going to love it.
What are you getting into this week?
Wait.
Wait, I actually, okay,
Wait.
wait. I have a listener email.
Excuse me, that's my job.
I know.
I have a good one.
I know, but I also have a listener email this week.
We're in rare form. To be candid, it is that time of the month for me. I am in so much pain, so I have a lot of Tylenol in my system and
Her liver is
about to
crying.
shut down.
Just going through it.
I'm going through it. I've cried already today. Weird.
Yeah. You called me yesterday and we're like, just been crying. It's like, sorry,
I could
girl.
cry at the drop of a hat, and I'm not a crier, really. I think because Lexapro like numbs you out, but on my period, I'm like, oh my God. Well, I saw a video on TikTok, which went away for 16 hours. Last time we were talking about how it was going to go away. And it was of a guy putting his dog down.
Why would you watch that?
Well, it just popped up. I didn't know what was happening. And then I got sucked in, started crying, went and hugged my dogs for like 20 minutes.
So she's fragile today.
I've been fragile.
She's been fragile.
Yeah.
I have a listener email.
Okay.
It says, hello, I'm a longtime listener and fan of you both. I've always meant to write in as I have stories that I think would relate and be interesting for your show, but that will be another day. Right now, I want to say, fuck you. No, I'm just kidding.
Good for them.
I'd love that. Rip us a new one. Right now, I felt this article about a cemetery in LA needed a moment in the spotlight. It gave me an overwhelming feeling of appreciation for people like this. They all
Aw.
sounded so perfect for the job they have.
Okay.
And it brought tears to my eyes.
Okay.
Get ready.
Okay. So I'm gonna
Just kidding.
cry.
This is from the New York Times. It says, as the living fled, a race to save the dead at an Altadena cemetery.
Oh.
Workers at the Mountain View Cemetery had unique concerns the night the Eaton fire broke out. The 55-acre expanse may also have spared some homes from the flames. Quote, as she drove to work, Genevieve Alba could see the flames churning through the mountains above Altadena. They looked far off, and with a funeral the next day, there was still plenty to do. A woman needed to be prepared for the service, a careful embalming task that Miss Alba began around 3:30 a.m. in a windowless room at the Mountain View Mortuary and Cemetery. The smell of smoke was getting worse and worse, but Miss Alba thought little of it as she focused intently on bathing the woman and setting her features. Then, as the sun began to rise, her boss flew into the room in a panic. The town, he told her, was on fire.
Oh.
They rushed outside and saw home after home consumed by flames. The sky was just red and there was explosions everywhere, recalled Miss Alba, 30. At a cemetery, there's a lot to consider when flames are upon you. Employees thought of their own safety, yes, but also felt a duty to those who entrusted them with their dearly departed loved ones. In the moment, the employees' first thought was the formaldehyde. They began loading boxes of flammable embalming chemical into a van, and an employee drove it to the center of the cemetery, away from any buildings or people, like getting rid of a grenade.
Wow.
Then there was the handwritten book that maps out the sites of each grave, both a piece of history and a family heirloom.
Mm-hmm.
That was quickly stashed in a concrete vault in the basement. But what about the bodies? As the fire raged, a horrible fear slashed through Miss Alba's mind. What if the bodies that she took so much care to treat with dignity were cremated in a wildfire? What about the families who were still grieving the recent deaths of their loved ones? Between the preparation room and the storage refrigerator outside, there were about 50 bodies in all, people who had died over the holidays or in the first few days of the year. The Mountain View Cemetery on the southwest end of Altadena is an oasis of nature. Palm trees and pines stand tall, casting shadows on the grass and graves below. Bird calls replace the droning sounds of a Los Angeles suburb, and coyotes can sometimes be spotted strolling between headstones. It turns out that this suburban expanse of nature with granite markers, well-spaced trees, and manicured grass covering about 55 acres may also have deprived the Eaton fire of fuel and protected the homes to the south of it.
Wow.
Together, the cemetery and its 2 mausoleums are the final resting place for about 142,000 people.
Oh, wow.
More than 3 times the population of Altadena. It finds its origin in the death of one young woman 143 years ago. When Laura Giddings died of tuberculosis in her early 20s, her father, seeking a proper place to bury her, founded the cemetery in 1882. Which is such a cool inception story.
Really cool.
He laid her body to rest beneath a small marker, and a family legacy was born. Each generation passed down the cemetery, and Keith Brown, the great-great-great-grandson of the founder, is now the operations manager. One morning this week, Mr. Brown brushed leaves off Miss Giddings' grave as he thought back on the time he spent there as a child. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because it goes really into the family history, which is beautiful, but I want to get back to the point of this article. It says, no one at Mountain View could recall the winds blowing as strongly as they did last week, nor had they heard such a weather event in the cemetery's long history. Gusts knocked down branches and burst through the apartment window of Nate Rucker, 66, an employee who lives above the mortuary and across the hall from Mr. Brown. In the wee hours of Wednesday morning, the inferno raced toward the cemetery, picking off buildings left and right. Oh no, he thought, this is it. He and other employees began dousing the roof and shrubs with water until the hose ran dry, and eventually Mr. Brown decided that the flames were just too close. He told his employees it was time to go. Everyone got in their cars and left, driving through smoke and embers and feeling sick over the possibility that the bodies in their care might be lost to flames. Mr. Rucker, a pastor, a motorcyclist, and funeral specialist, said he made it about a mile before he felt compelled to return, giving in to a command he said had come from the Holy Spirit. He got back to his apartment at the mortuary and packed his most important possessions in his car, including his wife's ashes, in case he had to leave again. As the flames moved even closer, he got to work, grabbing 8 fire extinguishers from around the building and trying to douse the flames, which had reached a line of hedges just feet from an outdoor refrigerator room where dozens of bodies were stored. The flames were dangerously close to a large gas line that powers the crematory. Mr. Brown and other employees also returned later, alongside a group of people from neighboring mortuaries. They banded together using shovels and drums of water to extinguish hot embers, while others hustled bodies into vans to take them to safety.
This gives me the chills. I know.
All these different, mortuaries coming together to protect this one.
Wow.
When their work was done, all of the bodies had been saved. Everybody at the mortuary is accounted for, living
all
and
of them.
dead, Mr. Rucker said. When the winds calmed later that morning and the smoke lifted, the destruction of the town became apparent. To the east, west, and north of Mountain View, thousands of homes had turned to rubble. But the cemetery, to everyone's amazement, was almost entirely spared.
Wow.
Some equipment had been destroyed, but most of the grass was green and almost every grave was unscathed. Isn't that incredible?
That is incredible. I mean, God, the fires, we've talked about this so much, were such a tragedy. But stories like this, like
They give you hope and restore your faith in humanity.
Yes.
That was written by Nicholas Bogle Burroughs for the New York Times.
What was the Altadino?
Mountain View Cemetery.
Mountain View Cemetery. Okay.
Incredible,
wow.
Right?
That's so cool to know that they care so much about their dead.
Well, we know a lot of funeral homes that we've talked about on the show that would not give a fuck. They'd just be out of there.
I know.
So amazing commitment from everyone coming together. And I just loved this story so much. Thank you to the Geoff who sent that into us.
It's heartwarming.
Heartwarming. And we'll link the article in the sources if you want to read the full thing. But yeah, I thought it was great.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Oh, I love that.
I know. I never go into our emails, so I just got lucky because seeing that one, I don't know why I was in there.
Really, really emotional, but great. Are you ready for another listener email?
Sure am.
Okay, this one, I was so excited I wanted to tell you.
Oh, you almost did on the phone the other day. I feel like you called me and you're like, my listener email this week?
Yeah, I love it. Okay, the subject line was, we had too much fun at a funeral home. And it says, hello to my favorite best-selling authors. Doris and Desi Hot Dog in the latest edition, Frankie.
Aww.
My mother struggled with addiction her whole life. She passed away without any life insurance or money, so all of her final arrangements are being made very simple because financially it is falling entirely on me.
It's rough.
That's super rough. Due to the simplicity of it all, we probably could have made it out of the funeral home in 20 minutes, but we ended up spending 2 hours.
Love that.
Why? Because you just can't take someone like Carly and I to a funeral home.
We get it.
Truly, despite the sadness of the moment, we had a blast. Almost as soon as we sat down, I told the funeral director, so there's this podcast we listen to called Obituary. To my surprise, this gentleman, who is my grandfather's age, immediately responded with, oh, we know it well.
What?
I know. Isn't that cool?
Oh my God, yes.
A funeral home knows us?
I'm blushing.
Funeral director? Me too.
God.
From there, he definitely read the room, and he and his assistant opened up to us with all kinds of industry stories. Ones that make you laugh, ones that make you ask more questions, ones that just make you say, what the fuck? Everything happened so quickly when my mother died. It was a blur of one decision after another. I wasn't sure how quickly my mother would be cremated and how quickly I would need an urn, so I panicked and had one shipped express to the funeral home without asking them. When I apologized for this, the funeral director told me he would rather it be an urn he dropped off unannounced than something else. I said, what kind of things are people shipping here? He then proceeded to tell me about receiving a call one day from an adult son who wanted to use their funeral home for his mother who had just passed. The funeral director proceeded to ask where Mom was so they could go and collect her. The son told the funeral director, in the parking lot. The funeral director said lots of people die in parking lots, so he wasn't surprised and continued with his usual questions. What parking lot? Then the son said, your parking lot. We are outside. As it turns out, Mom died at home. The son and his wife then promptly loaded Mom into the back seat, buckled in and all.
Saved for transportation costs, I guess.
And drove her to the funeral home.
Oh, I love that.
The funeral director advised there are legal concerns with this and not to take this approach. I no longer felt bad about an unannounced urn. Anyway, there's so much more to tell, but this was long enough. Last thing I will say is this podcast allowed me to be brave writing my mother's obituary, something I probably never would have considered before. And I'm going to read it. It's for Lynn. Lynn, 63, of Altoona, died on January 11th, 2025. She was born in New Jersey. She is survived by her father and mother, godmother, great-aunt, brother, nieces, a nephew, a grandniece, whom she would have adored, and a daughter. Despite calling many places home during her childhood, Lynn remained most fond of her years spent living in Pittsburgh's Mount Oliver neighborhood, speaking endlessly of the family home on Anthony Street. In young adulthood, Lynn joined the Pennsylvania State University's class of 1983, receiving a bachelor's degree in business management. Lynn loved every dog she ever met or saw a picture of. However, the most beloved dogs of her lifetime were her boxer, Bisha, and her bulldog, Savannah. She also loved elephants, which she affectionately called Elefelts. As a child, she loved Nancy Drew books, advancing to James Patterson's novels as an adult. Lynn never passed up a gossip magazine in a checkout line. Oh, I love that.
Love that.
And was thankful for the advent of reality television. However, nothing brought Lynn more joy than a nice Coca-Cola. In lieu of flowers, donations may also be made in her memory to the Central Pennsylvania Humane Society, Mending Hearts Animal Rescue, or an animal welfare organization of your choice.
Oh.
And then they said, if you read anything on the pod, you're welcome to use my name, my friends, and my mother's. I'm so sorry about the loss of your mother.
She's sorry for your loss. She sounds like our kind of gal.
Like our kind of gal.
A gossip magazine at a checkout aisle. A
Coca-Cola. Loved a dog. Loved elephants. Reality TV. Are you kidding me?
Our
Great
girl.
obituary.
And thank you for sharing that story. That's incredible.
I know.
Incredible. Loved that the funeral home was just so open and just was willing to shoot the shit. I think that's awesome.
So cool.
So shout out to them. And if they're listening to this in Altoona, they'll know who they are.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to us.
Hi. Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're going to take this sweet, sweet tone and shift it a little south to the asshole region, if you will.
Okay.
I've got some Am I the Assholes for us. And this first one says, am I the asshole for wanting a coach to make up lessons that were canceled because her husband died?
Okay.
It says, my daughter takes equestrian lessons. The lessons are 1.5 hours long and about $40 per session. I pay monthly, 4 lessons each month, and have never missed or been late on a payment. We have been with this coach for almost 2 years and have never had an issue. I am currently paid through January. The coach's husband died unexpectedly and the lessons were canceled for 2 weeks in November. My daughter had 2 lessons since the cancellations. The reasoning for the other cancellations were due to weather and were valid. Today makes the 7th session that has been canceled that I've paid for. The coach has asked that my daughter come to the barn on Saturday for a 2-hour lesson to make up the canceled lessons. My daughter has had 2 lessons missed because of the death of her husband, and today makes 5 lessons missed due to weather, 7 total. I responded to the coach that her makeup session was not acceptable, and then reminded her how many lessons we are behind, and she hasn't responded. Am I the asshole for requiring the coach to make up the lessons even though her husband died? Should I give her a break and allow the 2-hour lesson makeup for the 7 lessons?
Yes. Oh, it's not hard because, you need to be a fucking human being. And the 2 lessons have empathy. The other weather-related ones, need to be made up. You need to cut her some slack with, obviously, the death.
Yeah. I think cut some slack or just be like, okay, can we roll these over to the next month or whatever?
Yeah. Because it's still, I hate this. I hate that it's still a
It's still a business. It's still a job. We all still have to do things. Absolutely. But yeah.
But also, maybe just fucking.
Well, actually, you say it till you're in it, but we both have had an experience before where we were fully do whatever you need. We had someone that we were both working with.
Yeah.
Who unfortunately was going through a very scary situation with a loved one and a hard time. And our immediate reaction wasn't well, how are you going to make up for these? It was very much so.
Yeah, we were very graceful.
Actually, we were very humble and very graceful, actually.
And we were like, hey, if you need money to buy a plane ticket, we can prepay. So, actually cut her some fucking slack.
Cut some slack. And it's not that is your daughter going to forget how to ride a horse?
Come on.
I would say roll over some of the lessons. The weather-related ones, absolutely. But the 2 because of her husband or whatever, give her a fucking break.
Yeah.
And that's for any business.
Yeah.
You're evil if you are a company and you don't give people proper bereavement.
It's evil.
Evil, correct.
Evil.
Okay, the second one says, am I the asshole for calling out my grandmother?
Okay.
My father died suddenly at the tail end of November, which caused a flurry of chaos trying to get my military brother home on such short notice. Since he came on such short notice, he didn't pack his dress uniform for the funeral. It took a full day of travel to buy him a new one, but he needed it tailored. Our grandmother said that she knew a tailor, so he went to her, and the uniform came back the day before the funeral, but it was done wrong. Patches that were supposed to be sewn on were glued on. Brand new shirt, ruined. We were understandably angry and frantic as we were trying to figure out what to do, while my grandmother scurries away as if she were a kicked puppy. We barely had time to get a new shirt from a military surplus store and hand sew the glue-covered patches in place. Thankfully, the patches weren't ruined, as those would have been even harder to find. Funeral happens, my brother goes back overseas, and we didn't hear a single word from my grandmother, who had supposedly been very upset about my father's death. Christmas Eve, roughly 2 weeks after the funeral and everything else, I haven't been able to function because I'm so heartbroken. Normally on Christmas Eve, we go out to celebrate with my family one town over. My mother stayed in town with me to be my support, but neither of us told the family we weren't coming out. We didn't hear a word from my grandmother, aunts, or cousins. In a fit of upset and hurt, I texted my grandma a few messages about how my brother and I survived our father's full military honors funeral, getting my brother's uniform fixed, getting him back to his duty station, and how we wouldn't be coming out to Christmas. How I'm hurt she didn't check in with us about anything, and some sarcastic "thanks for asking" tacked on at the end. The next morning she texted back, ignored essentially everything I messaged her, and replied saying she would reimburse my brother for his uniform. Didn't say anything about missing us at Christmas or asking how we're coping or offering any form of support, which is what I wanted and needed. I messaged back telling her that she missed the point. All she kept saying was stuff about my brother's uniform, and then suddenly talking about how she felt like a failure after I told her I'm hurting and you don't seem to care. For more context, this isn't the first time she bailed when my immediate family was going through some rough times. Last year, my mother's husband died, and she essentially did the same thing, dismissed my mother's heartbreak, and treated her like a child with a broken toy rather than a woman who lost her husband of 20 years. It started to get around the family, and everyone has opinions on it, and a lot are saying I should apologize to keep the peace. It's got me second-guessing even saying anything to begin with. I don't know where else to turn for advice. She also added an edit, "My grandma didn't lose her son. My father was her daughter's ex-husband.
My father was her daughter's ex-husband." Okay.
So it's her mom's mom?
Mm-hmm.
My parents divorced in 1999. My father was nothing to my grandmother anymore.
I don't think you're the asshole for calling her out.
I don't think so either. My father was her daughter's ex-husband?
Yeah.
Why word it like that?
I know. Maybe you're
This is
weird.
my mom's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you are the asshole for just
Yeah, wait a minute. I think the grandma got her feelings hurt because the
she was trying to
suit
help. Yeah.
wasn't right.
Probably.
Maybe they were assholes to her and she took it. It's a sensitive time.
But be empathetic towards them. But also, that's the thing, like, saying that none of the family texted them on their first, like, that's fucked up.
She probably went back and was like, "Oh, you'll never believe how so-and-so, how my daughter's daughter,
My daughter's ex-husband.
my daughter's ex-husband's daughter treated me." Please, everyone can go away.
Oh.
In that one.
In that one. I agree. Yeah. Annoying.
Yeah.
So.
God, well, I'm up first this week.
Oh, God, I gotta keep reading.
Which means you have to keep reading. You should have a side bitch.
I do. Okay. So this is for Anita Bryant Dry, former Miss Oklahoma, three-time Grammy-nominated singer, author, recipient of the USO Silver Medallion for Service, Veterans of Foreign Wars Leadership Gold Medallion, and Al Jolson Gold Medallion.
Our show's very military today.
Yeah, military focus. Died at her home in Edmond, Oklahoma on Monday, December 16th, 2024, surrounded by her family and friends. She was 84 years old. Born on March 25th, 1940 in Barnsdall, Oklahoma to Lenora Bryant and Warren Bryant, Anita spent her early years surrounded by the love of her family, the Christian faith that would guide her throughout her life. Her passion for music and performance blossomed early, leading her to a career that included her own TV show at the age of 12, her crowning as Miss Oklahoma at the age of 18, guest spots on Arthur Godfrey's CBS programs and on Dick Clark's American Bandstand, and chart hits Till There Was You, Paper Roses, In My Little Corner of the World, and Wonderland by Night. For 7 consecutive years, Anita performed with Bob Hope's holiday tours for the U.S. troops abroad. Hope dubbed her his troops' den mother because of her propensity for taking care of others. She sang at the White House for President Lyndon B. Johnson and at his graveside service. In 1968, Anita sang at both the Republican and the Democratic National Conventions, and she was known especially for her rendition of Battle Hymn of the Republic. On the lighter entertainment side, Anita also sang at the Super Bowl in 1971 and co-hosted the nationally televised segment of the Orange Bowl Parade for 9 years. She served as the TV spokesperson for Florida Orange Juice for 9 years and for Coca-Cola for 7 years. Later in life, she led Anita Bryant Ministries International, an organization encouraging others to live with faith and purpose. Such dedication extended to her family. She was a loving mother to her 4 children and a devoted grandmother to her 7 grandchildren. May Anita's memory and her faith in eternal life through Christ comfort all who embraced her.
Okay.
And I say, oh well. She could rot for all I care.
I knew something was up. Hold on.
I don't like this bitch.
What'd she do?
Okay, so the New York Times also posted an obituary for Anita. And the headline says it all. Anita Bryant, whose anti-gay politics undid a singing career.
Fuck you, Anita. You need to... Anita, go to hell.
It says whose anti-gay politics undid a singing career is dead at 84.
Good.
Before anyone fucking says anything, fuck off. No, I'm not dealing with it. Okay. Oh, I remember when fucking
What? Who's gonna say anything?
Oh,
someone you want to listen? No.
Okay, true. The former beauty queen and spokeswoman for Florida Orange Juice was an all-American entertainer before she began crusading against LGBTQ rights. In the New York Times obituary, they discuss her fall from grace, writing, in early 1977, Miami, where Miss Bryant lived, gave its final approval to an ordinance prohibiting discrimination against homosexuals. A group of opponents, led by Miss Anita Bryant, turned up to protest. The ordinance condones immorality and discriminates against my children's rights to grow up in a healthy, decent community, she said.
Oh, you're fucking rotten. Little slut.
She founded Save Our Children, an anti-gay organization that gave rise to the modern-day religious rights strategy of tying homosexuality to perceived threats against children. Her public image, many called her a Christian celebrity, was changed forever. In October of 1977, at a news conference in Des Moines, a demonstrator walked up to Miss Bryant and pushed a banana cream pie into her face. At least it was fruit pie, Miss Bryant ad-libbed.
What the fuck? So she likes it?
No, they were saying, she said, like kind of like, because they call gay men fruits.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. As the cameras rolled and pie filling clung to her cheeks, she began to pray. We're praying for him to be delivered from his deviant lifestyle, Father, and then broke down into tears.
She is a rat.
But I was just like, girl, whatever. Because here's the thing.
You don't have to even say anything about anything.
Yeah, no, rot girl. I don't give a
here's
fuck.
the thing.
You can fucking, if you're gonna call yourself a Christian, then talk the talk and walk the walk, baby. Because I know plenty of people who identify themselves as Christians and who are
hateful.
So active in their church, and I've never heard a hateful thing come from their mouth. All that judgment and shit is weird bullshit that you're doing, and I don't fucking like it. If you do fucked up shit like that, whether it's against gay people or people of different races or whatever, you can go fuck yourself. And I'll read your obituary. What's that quote? I'll read your obituary with glee.
Yeah, absolutely. Your obituary can't come soon enough.
Oop. 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 All right. Well, things just got really heated for us, but not as hot as they are for Anita right now. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Madison will tell us what had her spinning in her coffin this week.
Bye-bye.
We'll be right back.
Come to us. Come to us.
And we're back. What had you spinning in your coffin this week?
Okay, Geoffs. This week, I kept getting videos on TikTok of like military guards guarding a tomb, and then the chain.
You weren't lying. This is very military focused.
Very military focused. I am the daughter of an Air Force veteran.
You are.
And
My dad was in the military too, girl.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
And we're not in the military, but
No.
we're serving every week.
Okay, so I kept getting, and these videos are beautiful, like of the changing of the guard and how serious it is, and it's really cool to watch. You guys should look it up. Well, first of all, I think I kept getting those videos because I was watching so much inauguration footage because I was like,
Not me.
oh, I was, because I was like, January 6th
Wait.
is not gonna fucking happen again.
Can we talk about fucking Billy Ray Cyrus?
What a train wreck.
What a train wreck.
My achy, breaky heart.
No, walking around like this. Like this. Oh, take my heart.
Oh, down road. That was terrible.
Crazy.
Crazy. The whole thing, you know.
Crazy.
Anyway, I'm going to do a deep dive on it, and it's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Oh, that's a good one.
Now,
You beat me to it. I've had that on the list before.
really?
Yeah.
See, I've always heard of it, right?
I don't know anything about it.
Neither do I. I've always heard of it. And I didn't know much about it other than it's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier is a real tomb with a real body or bodies in it.
Bodies.
We'll get into that. Located at the Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia. And really quick, a little bit about the Arlington National Cemetery.
Oh, I've been.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for those of you that haven't,
I've seen the ceremony. Actually.
Oh.
Now it's all coming back to me now.
What ceremony? The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier?
Yeah, they come and
What
they
the
do
fuck?
They come and I have pictures of me and my whole family there. Yeah, they come and they do like a full. I'm sorry, I don't want
Will
to be
you
disrespectful.
find them so I can put them in here?
Yeah, but I fully have been to this. Next. Next topic.
God.
I don't mean to laugh. It's a very serious topic, but I'm just laughing because I'm like, oh my God, wait, no, I've been there. I've been to this. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for everybody who fucking hasn't fucking been,
I'm
it's
a little more connected to this than you
Yeah.
are, actually.
it's the largest military cemetery in the United States.
Uh-huh.
It's shut the fuck up. It's 1,100 acres
President's buried there.
of beautiful cemetery. Which presidents?
John F. Kennedy's
Uh-huh.
buried there. I remember seeing his grave there. I think
There's
Lyndon
another
B.
one.
Johnson's there too. No?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. I know JFK is buried there.
Yeah. It's a beautiful cemetery.
But it is beautiful. It overlooks the river,
Sure
the
does.
Potomac River that divides Washington, D.C. with Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do a hate crime.
Anita!
Anita!
Bryant.
Anita! It was first established in May of 1864
Sure was.
by George Washington Parke Custis, who was George Washington's step-grandson. I never knew that Martha was married before.
Oh. Scandalous.
Scandalous. He built the Arlington house on the property.
Do you want to know something crazy?
What?
George Washington didn't know dinosaurs existed
Why not?
because they hadn't discovered fossil fuel until way after he had passed away.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, people are just walking around not knowing that dinosaurs existed.
That's what fossil fuel is?
Ladies and gentlemen, the two most intelligent minds in podcast.
Girl, I don't know. He built the Arlington house on the property as a memorial, like a living memorial to George Washington. So it wasn't meant to be an actual cemetery. It was meant to be just this big, beautiful estate.
Okay.
The estate was then inherited by Mary Anna Custis
Custis
Lee. I'm going to
Just
kill you! The great-granddaughter of Martha Washington, who married Robert E. Lee, who was a fuck-ass racist
The general. Robert E. Lee, yup.
in the Confederate Army. The Lees lived on the estate before the Civil War, and then when the Civil War...
The silverware.
The silverware. God. When the Civil War broke out, Robert E. Lee left Arlington to join the Confederacy or the Confederate Army. The federal government then swooped in, seized the property in 1861, claiming it for unpaid taxes, I guess. And then the U.S. government began using the land. On Atlas Obscura, they wrote an article, a different thing about like Robert E. Lee, but I was reading the article and it says, quote, local papers reported that Union troops were preparing to claim the estate almost as soon as Lee left. Today, it is expected that 10,000 of our soldiers will cross the Potomac and encamp on Arlington Heights, the Adams Sentinel wrote.
There's a video I took at the Arlington Cemetery. Beautiful. Look how big it is, though.
It's huge.
It's massive. It was raining, so we had to wear ponchos.
Oh, what year was that?
2018,
Okay.
around the same time that you and I got into when we had mohawks. That is me and Madison. There's Madison at the dollar store. Like, where
That hat?
Yeah,
Why did you put that on me?
girl, you wore that to the store.
No, bitch.
That was
I
your
would
favorite hat.
never wear a fedora.
That was your favorite
You're a
hat.
bitch.
You wore
Let
it.
me do my coffin spinner. Let me do my coffin
Okay,
spinner.
sorry. I just wanted to look at my pictures from when I was living it.
Oh, God. Okay.
We should have gone when we were there for our Washington show.
I know. We were right there.
But we were only there for like a day.
I know. There was drama. Remember the awful hotel? We had to switch hotels. Things were hanging off.
Yeah.
Okay, it goes on to say their tents whitening the very ground on which it is located, the residence of General Lee, the commander of the Virginia forces. Lee's wife, Mary, fled after instructing servants to put away the carpets and curtains and to find a new home for the cat. The troops arrived by the thousands, and before they are called to the battlefield, Poole writes, they acted as if they were on holiday. They promenaded between the portico's Doric columns, stuccoed and artfully painted to resemble marble. They got up to a little mischief, marking a few walls with triumphant graffiti, pilfering china made in Mount Vernon, and rooting through the possessions the Lee family left behind. In 1864, the U.S. government began using the land to bury soldiers. Then it officially became the Arlington National Cemetery. And it was only about 200 acres and has obviously expanded a ton over time. But the tomb of the unknown soldier was erected on November 11th, 1921, on Armistice Day, which is now Veterans Day. This was to honor unidentified soldiers or soldiers whose remains haven't been found who died in World War I.
Yep.
The tomb has since expanded to obviously represent unidentified soldiers from all different conflicts. And this wasn't the first of its kind, though. So the U.S. got the idea for this because the British had a tomb at Westminster Abbey called the Tomb of the Unknown Warrior. Part of the inscription of that warrior's tomb says, beneath this stone rests the body of a British warrior, unknown by name or rank, brought from France to lie among the most illustrious of the land and buried here on Armistice Day. On November 11th of 1920, France also erected a tomb of the unknown soldier that holds an unidentified French soldier who was killed during World War I as well. Then a year later, we did it. We exhumed 4 American soldiers from a French cemetery who died in World War I, and then brought them over, and one of them was chosen for the tomb. The unknown soldier was chosen by a super decorated army sergeant. Then the unknown soldier was laid in the state capitol and then had a procession to the amphitheater at the cemetery, and then was given an internment ceremony by the president at the time, Warren G. Harding, who I have never heard of in my whole life. No clue, okay? The unknown soldier was not only given the Medal of Honor, but also heavily decorated by other countries. On the Arlington National Cemetery website, they have so much reading material And I was in the like student and teachers reading material.
Uh-huh.
And they had the funeral pamphlets from the first unknown soldier. And it says the unknown soldier is decorated with the Congressional Medal of Honor and with the Distinguished Service Cross by the President of the United States. And then it goes on. It was a Belgian thing. The King of England gave him the Victoria Cross. Like the French gave him something. Like, so he was, the unknown soldier's decorated, super, super decorated. The U.S.'s tomb for the unknown soldier is super beautiful today, but it started out as just a marble slab. Still really pretty, but not as like big as it is today. But it says, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God." The tomb now is more of a large sarcophagus, and it has 3 sculptures on it that represents valor, peace, and victory, and there are a bunch of wreaths sculpted around it. So in 1921, it was a marble slab. Then in 1925, they placed a white picket fence around it because there were some visitors that were disrespectful. Then in 1926, they introduced a military guard to stand there during the day, which we'll get to in a minute. And then in 1932, the tomb or sarcophagus that still stands today was completed. By the 1950s, though, we had gone through World War II and the Korean War, which I believe ended in 1953. So President Eisenhower decided that it was time to inter 2 more soldiers to represent the unknown / unidentified soldiers for those conflicts. And it's super interesting reading through these PDFs that the Arlington National Cemetery has on their website because they explain how choosing an unidentified or unknown soldier it's kind of a tough job. Like there's a lot that goes into it. For World War II, it was fought on 4 different continents. So they explain they had to exhume 13 bodies from different parts of the world. So in Europe and Africa, that was the transatlantic part of World War II. Then there was the Pacific theater of World War II. They had to exhume 5 bodies from the Philippines and Hawaii. And then in Hawaii, they exhumed 4 bodies that represented the Korean War. From all of those, they chose 1 to represent World War II and 1 to represent the Korean War. Then, after the Vietnam War, they had to choose an unknown soldier to represent the Vietnam War. But this was a little different because we had advanced so much in our capabilities to identify bodies and body parts. It says that there was only 1 set of remains from the Vietnam War that was found that was not all the way identified.
Okay.
So they chose that body for the Vietnam War. And last night I was trying to fall asleep. And because I was watching so much stuff on the unknown soldier, a video popped up that was recommended from the History Channel. And it was like, unknown soldier identified. And I was like, what? And it went into how the Vietnam unknown soldier was identified a few years ago because his family made a public plea. They were like, our son never came back from the Vietnam War, and we think that he could be the unknown soldier.
Oh, wow.
And so they exhumed the body, did DNA, and it turns out it was.
Wow.
His name is Michael J. Blassie, and he was reinterred at a different cemetery from the family's wishes. I guess the Vietnam spot remains vacant.
Huh. Interesting.
I know. And then also in that cemetery, there's a grave that has 14 unknown soldiers buried there from the War of 1812. They also have a tomb that has Civil War unidentified remains. Okay, but back to the guards. This is what brought me to this whole thing. So they first started using guards to guard the tomb in 1926. They were there all day, but it didn't turn into a 24/7 job until 1937. And the soldiers who guard the tomb of the unknown soldier are part of the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry regime, known as the Old Guard, which is the oldest active duty infantry unit in the U.S. Army. It dates back to the 1700s. If soldiers want to guard the unknown soldier tomb, they have to meet super strict requirements. They can be between 5'10" and 6'4", and they have to be in great physical shape. Guards are on duty even during extreme conditions, such as hurricanes and snowstorms. Like, they have to be there. They switch every 30 minutes during the summer and 1 to 2 hours during the winter. The guards carry a rifle, it has to be kept spotless and held in the shoulder away from the tomb as a sign of respect. The guards take exactly 21 steps in front of the tomb, symbolizing the 21-gun salute, which is the highest military honor. And the guard pauses for 21 seconds at each turn. And every movement is super calculated and deliberate to convey honor and respect. And the guards who complete their training earn the Tomb Guard Identification Badge, which is one of the Army's rarest honors. And I guess only fewer than 700 soldiers have earned this badge since it was created in 1958.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like a little lesson to relearn. Like, I know it probably sounds crazy to be like, oh, I forgot that I went there. Like, because when you were talking about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, I was like, God, why does that sound so familiar to me? And the second you said, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
well, it is such a big, beautiful cemetery that there's probably so much to look at.
Well, that was also right after my mom died
So everything was a blur.
Well, no, because you know what it was? It's so like our middle school did an 8th grade field trip where we flew to. Did your school do that? You fly to DC.
Yeah, I didn't do it, but
you go to New York and you go to DC.
Yeah,
I didn't go because I was smoking cigarettes behind 7-Eleven. My little sister, though, she didn't get to go because, well, our mom had just died, and so we as a family decided to go.
Oh.
And so we did like the New York and DC trip for her.
Okay.
And yeah, so that was kind of like a blur year for me.
Yeah.
But I do remember going. It was absolutely beautiful. It was incredible. I just remember, being just silent and in awe. It's the biggest cemetery that I've ever seen in my life in person. And it was definitely incredible, but I remember it was also raining that day, and I don't think we did like a full tour or anything. I think we just walked around the property, which is why I think it's probably not so ingrained. But I remember watching them do a ceremony there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did taps or what, but they did some sort of ceremony there. They did like the changing of the guard or whatever. And then, but it was really beautiful.
Yeah. It's like pretty breathtaking, just the respect for
a person who's not been identified.
Yes. And like, I feel like it would bring, we have close family friends who lost their son in Afghanistan. And luckily, they were able to bring his body back. But it was still such a horrific thing.
Yeah.
Like, imagine not knowing
what happened to their body. Yeah, absolutely.
So
that'd be so upsetting. My dad's actually buried at a military.
Oh,
cemetery. Yeah, up north.
Okay. Have you been?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like in a long time, though.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad.
Well.
Maybe next time. I'll drive by, do a honk.
Honk, honk.
No, you know what's actually so funny is that I don't visit anyone. Most of my family, like my mom's ashes are at my parents' house.
I haven't visited my grandma or grandpa in a long time, and they're in LA.
My grandma's the only one who's has a burial. Well, aside from my dad, who is in a cemetery. I've visited her maybe once.
Was she cremated? No?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but she's okay.
Yeah. Oops. Most of my family's on the fireman, so I guess I hide them there.
Yeah.
No, because I don't think our bodies are anything. Like, I think your spirit moves on, and so I feel like if I'm gonna talk to them, we've got long distance. Okay, I'm not gonna. I don't need to go to the.
Yeah.
I have nothing against it. I don't feel like emotional about going or anything. It's nice to go and feel emotional, and I love seeing things like the cemeteries by my house, like where people are going and they're sitting and having picnics, or like.
I love that.
I have a lot of friends who have lost parents who go in on Mother's Day or Father's Day or whatever, they go to their parents' grave. I love that. But yeah, it's just my family's pretty casual when it comes to like burial. It's like, Usually it's spreading ashes somewhere, or
Yeah.
we don't do a whole to do. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, great. Well, cool.
Well, should we take a little break and then hear what had you spinning?
Oh, Anita break.
Okay. Anita.
And then, yeah, when we come back, I'll tell you what had me spinning in my coffin. We'll be right back. And we're back.
And we're back, Spencer.
And we're back.
And we're back, Spencer. What had you spinning in your coffin?
Well, Geoffs, it's about Valentine's
back.
Day time.
And we're back. Spencer, what had you spinning in your coffin?
Well, Geoffs, Valentine's Day is probably around right now.
Yeah.
So today I thought I'd bring the romance. Necromancy, that is.
Oh, okay.
Right. Today I decided to go back to my early 2000s rockabilly roots and discuss necromancy.
Okay,
Remember the
yeah.
necromantics? As well as necromancers we'll be talking about today. And I'm really excited, honestly, because this is one of those coffin spinners that came to me via watching a TV show, which is my favorite kind of coffin spinner.
Yes.
You know, when you're just watching something and you're like, bloop, I'm going to talk about that on the show.
1,000%.
I was watching What We Do in the Shadows, and they have a reference to necromancy in one of the episodes. And I was like, oh shit, we've never really gotten into that topic before on the show.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive on that. And I'm glad I did.
Okay.
Madison, girly, let me ask you this, girl. What would you do if you could summon the dead? Would you ask for guidance and knowledge? Would you ask them for their most intimate secrets? Or potentially wield their powers?
Yeah.
Well, today we're diving into the eerie, fascinating, and often misunderstood world of necromancers. From ancient myths to modern pop culture, necromancy has been a source of both fear and fascination for people. But a lot of people don't even know what it is, including me. I was like, what the hell is necromancy?
Feel like I know, but I don't.
Like, we've heard the term.
Yeah.
But I always think of it as like, I guess I always thought of it more like I emphasize too much on the romance part of it. Like necromance. Like I was like, I was kind of thinking of something weird maybe. I don't know.
About necks.
Necrophilia or something. So we're going to talk about what necromancy is and why it's captivated humanity for centuries. To understand necromancy, we have to go back, way back to the ancient world.
Okay.
The term itself comes from the Greek words nekros, meaning dead, and mantia, meaning divination.
Oh, so romance isn't even a part of it.
No.
Okay.
In its earliest forms, necromancy wasn't just about raising the dead to fight battles or haunt villages. It was all about communication. And ancient Greeks believed that the dead had the knowledge that could guide the living. To be honest, I was really happy and it felt refreshing to learn about this because a lot of necromancy is communicating with the dead. After like deep diving on the Fox sisters for Cult Leader, and we've talked about other stories about psychics and mediumship and the rise of the spiritualism movement on this show as well, I felt a little deflated when it came to the topic of mediumship and communication with the deceased as a whole. So reading about the history of necromancy was a great reminder that this type of like communicating with the dead existed way before any hoax-centric activity of the 1880s.
Okay, love this.
A prominent early example is the story of Odysseus in the Odyssey, which was written in the 7th century BCE.
Oh.
And it has a scene where Odysseus travels to the underworld to speak to a prophet named Tiresias. Using rituals involving blood offerings, Odysseus summons spirits to gain the wisdom that he needs for his journeys. And we've talked about before the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and they talk about different rituals connecting the living with the dearly departed in there. And then in some of your fairy tale centric episodes, I believe you've mentioned grimoires, which also often made references to connecting with the deceased as well. And there's a lot of researchers that claim that necromancy may be associated with early shamanism as well.
Okay.
So like, I don't know, tapping into more of like that clairvoyant type of vibe. But tons of other religions and regions alike have their own sacred practices for connecting with the deceased. But it got me thinking, like, what is the difference here between a medium and a necromancer?
Yeah.
Because
Well, I guess a medium's not summoning.
sure they are.
Okay.
Aren't they summoning spirits to come forward to talk to them?
Oh, I guess. I feel like when I think of summoning, I think of like bringing them into this plane.
So what would a medium be doing to you?
A medium can
Connect with the other
can
side.
the veil is thin for a medium. They can go to the other side, hear the chitter chatter,
Uh-huh.
but they don't bring them back.
Okay.
That's just what
Yeah,
I think.
no,
I don't know.
I would agree with that. And I think it all depends. Like, I feel like everyone operates differently. So that could be an example of like what a difference would be. I think a lot of times, especially throughout history, a necromancer is doing it more for a specific reason, like trying to gain some sort of knowledge or,
It's a little shady.
well, they refer to it as black magic a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, or shady. But I was reading this article about necromancy on grunge.com. They mentioned something that came up in some Greek myths called skull necromancy,
Ooh.
which is the practice of consultating the decapitated head of a person for inside knowledge.
Oh, shit. Damn.
I know, I died reading about this. So I read, quote, necromancy in ancient Greece could definitely end poorly as it did for Periander, the tyrant of Corinth. He summoned his dead wife to find out where she had buried some money, and while she told him, she also reminded him that he'd gotten too frisky and violated her corpse. She demanded a sacrifice of clothing, which resulted in his orders that the women of the city publicly strip and hand over their clothes.
Oh my God.
That was wild, but I'm like, consulting your wife is crazy. But I was like, imagine, because we joke all the time. Every time Madison and I are on the phone, her husband inevitably walks into the room like, where'd you put this cord? Or like, where'd you put this? And I was like, I could picture, if you were dead, I could picture him just going to your gravesite and be like, where'd you put my charger? Where'd you, you're always moving shit. I love it. There were a lot of different rituals that people would do, like the skull rituals, where they would go to the decapitated head of someone and try and communicate via that way. Or, according to that article on Grunge, there was at least one form of ritual that required an assistant, and that was prediction. Prediction was usually done with mirrors, glass, or liquids in a receptacle, which isn't a receptacle a trash can?
It could be.
That formed a reflective surface, and the images that would form on the surface could only be seen by a young virgin boy.
Me.
But yeah, so I mean, necromancy is literally just communicating with the dead, but kind of usually with some sort of purpose in mind. A lot of times it tied into like fortune telling too.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more asking the dead for a reason versus just trying to communicate with them in order to talk to them for like shits and giggles.
So could like a Ouija board be considered necromancy because you're asking it questions?
Yeah. No, yes.
Okay.
Fully. And so they say the Ouija board is kind of like a distant relative of necromancy. Because when I was researching it, a lot of it talked about like it went very much out of practice during like the Victorian era, especially when everyone started coming up with all these new methods of necromancy, which would be like the Ouija board or knocking ceremonies like the Fox sisters did and stuff, which predated the Ouija board, which I guess transcends into now, which would be, I don't even know, probably tarot card readings. Things like that.
I don't know.
Because you're asking the tarot cards, but
yeah,
I don't know.
interesting.
Interesting to think about.
Necromancy. I love the word. I wish that's what we still called it, like mediums or anything. I'm gonna go to the necromancy.
Well, and they talk about necromancy in the Bible and stuff, so it's like
old, really old,
really. Really
cool.
ancient, yeah. And I was like hoping I would find more, I guess I had pictured a little more obscurity behind all of it, but it really is just like contacting the deceased.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's it.
Okay. I love it.
That's necromancy.
Necromantics. Coming at ya. Okay, wait. My obituary's like a little rockabilly.
Okay.
Okay.
Why was I looking? So I have these tattoos on my wrist, these skulls.
Uh-huh.
And one has a pompadour and one has like victory rolls. And
Uh-huh.
I'm just like, what am I, rockabilly?
We all remember I used to have black hair and Betty Banks?
Yeah.
We were.
Remember we used to go to Cody's Viva Cantina in
Yes.
Burbank, and they had really good nachos there.
Yes.
And that's where all like the famous rockabilly girls went.
Yes.
And we would go and we would watch
everyone
watch
dance.
those boys on their
Mm-hmm.
big stand-up basses.
Yeah.
We'd,
That was
like,
fun.
that was like a good era. That was like a very wholesome well, I guess not for everyone. For us, it was very wholesome.
It was very wholesome.
As far as subcultures go.
Yeah, that's true.
Bring
it's
it
like,
back.
I'm going to swing dance, Mom.
Well, and it's
I'll
so
be
like
back.
90s too. A
Yeah.
lot of it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of vintage, like anything 1950s, a lot of it is actually 1990s.
Or 1970s
Redid
too.
it. Yes, 70s also.
Like 70s does 50s and
Mhm.
stuff. Well, and from like even vintage shopping, because like when I moved down here, I was very much still in that era of like wearing vintage clothing
Mhm.
all the time. And
Mhm.
I remember I had a lot of the shirts that were like 70s does 50s
Yeah.
and the lapels on. I always knew because like
Because
the lapels were
yeah,
longer
right.
on the 70s shirts.
Yep.
And so if I'd go to some of those vintage stores and those fuckers would try and be like, oh, that's from 1950, blah, blah, I'd be like,
No. We know.
okay, tell me about your rockabilly obituary.
It's pin-uppy.
Okay.
This obituary is for Bunny Yeager.
Oh.
She passed away in 2014, but you'll know who she is if you'll know. Miami Beach, Florida, Bunny Yeager, a model turned pinup photographer who helped jumpstart the career of then unknown Betty Page, died Sunday, her agent said. She was 85 years old. Yeager died at a North Miami hospice where she had been for about a week, her agent Ed Christian said. Bunny's legacy is her cultural impact, from pinup photography and fashion, helping to popularize the bikini and influencing other artists such as Cindy Sherman, who read Bunny's guides on photographing nudes and making self-portraits. Anyone in Miami in the 1950s who wanted a bikini would come to her, and she'd make one. Bunny is famous for making everyday women, from stay-at-home mothers to airline attendants, feel comfortable enough to bear it all. Her photos of Betty Page in a leopard print bathing suit standing next to a real cheetah are still well known today. They all wanted to model for me because they knew that I wouldn't take advantage of them, she told the Associated Press during a 2013 interview. And I wouldn't push them to do nude if they didn't want to do nudes. It wasn't a day when nude photography was prevalent. Linnea Eleanor Yeager was born in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania on March 13, 1929, and in the 1940s became one of the most photographed models in Miami during her early career. She later turned the camera on herself, posing in bathing suits she handmade for her 5'9" frame. Her self-portraits were turned into a book, How I Photograph Myself, in 1964. She began taking photos of Betty Page in 1954 as she began her career behind the camera. She published about a dozen books, and her work has been displayed in art galleries across the world. Besides the iconic Betty Page photo, Bunny also shot stills of the Swedish actress Ursula Andress, who starred in the 1962 James Bond film Dr. No in a white bikini, a knife sheathed at her side.
Hell yeah.
Bunny said she had few requests when several magazines began to struggle or went out of business over the last decade. But her career returned to the spotlight in 2010 when the Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh held an exhibit of her work.
Exhibit.
There was also an exhibit in Miami in 2013. And I still get that little tingle when I see the photos on the wall, she said on the Latter Day Attention. In her studio, Bunny kept a stash of photos no one had seen in cabinets. They will be included in a new book she's finishing, scheduled for publication in September, celebrating the 60th anniversary of Bunny's first photo shoots with Betty Page.
I would love that book.
I know, me too. I'm still feeling like a little child and excited over everything new that comes along in my life, she said in 2013. I don't know where it will lead to yet, but it sounds good to me. She passed a year later.
I love that.
I
forgot about
know.
Bunny Yeager. I want to rewatch I have the movie on DVD.
Me too. I do too.
Yeah?
Yes. And it's from like Blockbuster, and I never gave it back. I love that movie.
Calling the police.
Calling the police.
Okay. I have an obituary that I love that was featured on legacy.com.
Okay.
This is for David Drees, and I'll show you the obituary picture after, but I love it. It is with heavy hearts and a cacophony of intermittent, upset horsey noises that family and friends of David Lawrence Drees, 38, announced his passing at home in Huntsville, Alabama on November 2nd, 2024. Dave, who infamously pressed his lips together while exhaling, produced a sound identical to a disgruntled horse whenever annoyed, and left us all with an unfillable void and permanent urge to roll our eyes skyward, as if he might roll his right back. Local legend has it that the Drees family was the first in Wisconsin to plant their crops in orderly rows rather than just scattering seed all over willy-nilly Wisconsin style, as was tradition. And since you can't exactly prove they didn't, and this isn't a peer-reviewed journal or anything, you should probably just believe us, out of respect. This innovation eventually earned the Drees family the honor of having a road that goes from one place and nothing to another place with nothing named after them. A road that even today travelers refer to as adequately maintained. After graduating high school in the normal amount of time, that road, combined with several others, would take Dave out of New Berlin and to college at UW La Crosse, where he acquired a generationally appropriate amount of student debt and earned a Bachelor of Science and a master's degree in plant stuff, biochemistry and plant biology. After college, fueled by wanderlust and a relentless urge to play Thin Lizzy's The Boys Are Back in Town as many times as possible, in as many places as possible, until people around him demanded he knock it the F off, Dave embarked on his own explorations. Like a Rockets-era James Harden, he traveled extensively and called not only Des Moines, Iowa and Huntsville, Alabama home, but also South Korea, where he developed a love for kimchi and discovered there's a whole other Korea just above the one he was occupying. In addition to being the best son, brother, friend, honorary uncle, and moonwalker most will ever be lucky to know, Dave was also a fashion icon, known for turning grass green zip-up hoodies, punny t-shirts, and those hats from Peaky Blinders into millennial essentials. Dave enjoyed being right, Belle and Sebastian, naps, sea potatoes, which is what scientists call manatees, soup, cabbage, weird plants, normal plants, the part of Wall-E where the dinosaurs start freaking out in the kitchen, cheering for the Brewers, being obtuse for sport, dank memes, and performing choreographed dances to the hit song Call Your Girlfriend by Robin with friends.
Oh, love that song.
His very favorite pastimes, however, happened outdoors, hiking and camping to remote locations where he had to filter his own water, carry everything on his back like the trash lady from the Labyrinth, and where he could find himself or get lost and taken by feral mountain people. Wild, empathetic, insanely witty, and, for most, an intellectual superior, Dave delivered the kind of friendship that should come standard, but that, sadly, most won't experience even once. No one deserved David, they just lucked out. They met him in college, or the womb, or through their cool friends. In a cold world, time with Dave was like a seat by the fire, complete with funny stories and near emergencies that became funny stories later. Even if it was inconvenient, or he didn't want to, or it was cold, or it was hard, Dave made you feel like you mattered even if you didn't, because that matters. As much, Dave will be remembered often and fondly. On Dre's days and by surprise, likely right up until we're taken by the nonsensical dreamscape waiting in our own last naps. And until then, should you encounter one of us lost in a Dave memory, at least now you might understand why we all sound like horses with terribly broken hearts.
Oh.
Dave is preceded in death by his father, paternal grandparents, beloved cat, dog, nephew, and of course, all the other dead people on the planet. Dave is survived by his mother, sister, twin sister, and best roommate ever, maternal grandparents, pet nieces and nephews, and many more other lucky family and friends. For those wishing to honor Dave's memory, consider visiting every national park, dating someone who looks like they'll ruin your credit, buying a Honda, or driving it until Jesus snatches the wheel, calling an old friend, making up an elaborate fake life story to tell strangers at hotel bars, finding out what that plant do, or simply eating your favorite Icelandic gummy candies until you get gummy tummy. Again, and if the spirit moves you, throwing Monster Mash on at the nearest jukebox a solid 10, 15 times. Yes, in a row. It's a graveyard smash.
Oh, how cute.
I have to show you his obituary picture. I love it.
Oh, he's so cool.
Just smoking a pipe with his cat.
He sounds like a very fun and loved guy.
Very loved.
Yeah.
Very loved.
Oh.
I know. Well, some people that weren't loved enough. We've spun in our coffins.
We've bitched our obituaries.
It's time for some dumb
ass criminals.
Who you got?
Yours is from the New York Post also?
Yeah.
Mine's from the New York Post.
Okay.
Oh, we don't have the same. Okay. This just happened January 15th.
Okay.
It says, he's a choosy criminal. A knife-wielding menace nicknamed the Haggler after midnight is on the loose after mugging a dozen people in Brooklyn and Queens and bizarrely negotiating over what to steal, cops said.
Okay.
He's got a strange MO. He offers to haggle with his victims, so we call him the Haggler after midnight. If the victim produces property that they are going to give up, he says, no, I don't want that. I want that. So he'll choose.
Okay.
Police said the picky prowler struck 11 times in Bushwick, East New York, Cypress Hills, and Ridgewood during a 2-month spree that began in November. The robber approaches Hispanic men between ages 20 and 40, walking home after work, and haggles in both Spanish and English before riding off on a scooter with the unsuspecting victim's cell phones and cash.
Oh.
It's innocent individuals going home from work being targeted.
Damn.
The chief warned his attacks are getting more brazen, more bold, and more violent.
So he hasn't been caught?
No. During his latest stick-up, the brute pressed a knife against an unsuspecting 21-year-old man's throat on December 10th. He asked for the time and the victim to call him a taxi before whipping out the blade and running off with $45 and a debit card.
Damn.
Any tips? Call 1-800-577-TIPS.
Wow. Well, we'll
post the surveillance footage, but he is a haggler.
A menace. Well, mine's just a dumbass in the traditional sense. Mine's also from the New York Post, and it says, quote, a Florida woman is back behind bars just days after being released on bond for drug trafficking after deputies found meth in her tote bag that read, definitely not a bag full of drugs.
Stupid. Hey, love her. Kitschy.
Taryn Ackery's latest legal troubles began when the car she was a passenger in was pulled over by a deputy last week, the Brevard County Sheriff's Office wrote on its Facebook page on Sunday.
We've heard Brevard County
right,
quite a bit.
A million times. What you got going on over there? Deputy Lexi Gordon's canine unit dog, Aurora, detected something amiss in a few bags belonging to Ackery that were inside the vehicle. The driver let the deputy search the car, insisting that nothing illegal should be inside, the sheriff's office said, but the driver was mistaken. The bags were loaded with illegal contraband. Well, unfortunately for him, this is the part you can't make up, as Ackery had a few bags on her, with one of them had the words on it, definitely not a bag full of drugs. The sheriff's office wrote, the bag was filled with snacks. Just kidding. It was actually drugs. That's right. She actually had a bag with drugs in it that said on the side, definitely not a bag full of drugs.
Damn.
The statement continued. Look how sad she is.
Oh, she's so sad.
Like, she was like, this'll throw him off.
This'll throw him off.
They'll, like a what is it? Psychological, like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They found meth, needles, Narcan, digital scales, small baggies, cut straws, and other items associated with drugs in the bag.
I like the Narcan.
Yeah?
I feel like everybody should probably carry Narcan.
Acri 31 was swiftly arrested and charged with trafficking in meth, possession of methamphetamine with intent to sell, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Her new charges are practically identical to the ones she's facing from earlier this month. She was arrested on January 6th, but was freed 2 days later after meeting her $15,000 bond, according to the sheriff's office. Which is how annoyed would you be if you were paid this person's bond and then it's bloop, 48 hours later. Happens all the time, though, unfortunately.
Happens all the time.
Some dumbass behavior.
Oh my gosh, and a fashion police emergency.
Oh, come on.
Don't get that bag.
Don't do it.
Funny.
No, you're not tricking anyone.
No.
Well, that's it for the week.
Oh my gosh.
If you want more of us, you can head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/cultleader. And if you want to watch us, you can head to our YouTube.
youtube.com/@obituary podcast. And then everything else, if you forget that, it's on obituarypodcast.com.
Yep.
And literally everything.
Everything you could ever want. And that's it for the week. But we'll be back next week with some more coffin spinners.
And obituaries.
And dumb
ass
criminals.